On February 7, 1953, Eisenhower wanted to play golf very, very badly, as his secretary, Ann Whitman, put it in her diary. The day was cold and rainy, and Ike kept wandering out of the Oval Office onto the porch by the rose garden to stare up at the clouds. "Sometimes," he told Whitman, "I feel so sorry for myself I could cry." Whitman knew her boss was not entirely exaggerating. It may have been the middle of winter, and Eisenhower had been in office less than 3 weeks, but golf was vital to him. Barred by his image-conscious handlers from venturing out on the links during the presidential campaign, he had been anxious to play as a way of dealing with the pressures of his work. Eisenhower had a healthy respect for the physical and mental toll exacted on the men who had occupied the Oval Office before him. "That damn job," he called the presidency when he was still a lowly staff officer in the 1930s based in Washington. "Hell, the job killed Woodrow Wilson," Ike had exclaimed to Mamie. As president, Eisenhower brought the same discipline to relaxation that he applied to everything else. Golf was essential to his daily routine. When he awakened in the morning, he limbered up by taking a few swings in his bedroom with his favorite 8-iron. He sometimes swung the club when dictating to Mrs. Whitman. At 5 p.m., he would rise from Teddy Roosevelt's old Navy Department desk in the Oval Office, put on his golf shoes, and head out the door, leaving tiny spike holes in the floorboards. On the ellipse, the greensward stretching south from the White House toward the Washington Monument, he would practice fairway approach shots. His faithful valet, or as he was known in military parlance, his striker, Sergeant John Money, would shag the balls while tourists peered through the iron fence. Eisenhower teed off for a full round of golf about 800 times in his 8 years as president. Almost every Wednesday and Saturday afternoon, he played 3-hour, 18-hole rounds at Burning Tree, an all-male club in the Maryland suburbs. On 23 trips to Georgia, he played roughly 200 times at Augusta National, where friends built him, on the 10th hole, a spacious 3-story house, known initially as Mamie's cabin, then more commonly as the Eisenhower cabin. Mamie herself never played, but approved of the game as a stress reliever for her husband. Ike was a respectable weekend golfer, usually shooting in the 80s, but he had a congenital fade and an unreliable putter, and he sometimes blew up with a torrent of hells and damnations. Ike almost never used stronger language, and he disapproved of off-color stories. He would turn and walk away if a friend unwittingly tried a dirty joke. The United States Professional Golf Association helped build a putting green and sand trap outside his office on the South Lawn in 1954. In the spring of 1955, when some unruly squirrels created divots in the green, Ike ordered them shot. Eisenhower was accustomed to having his wishes become commands, but in this case, the offending animals were caught and removed. Eisenhower had grown up poor in Abilene, Kansas. As Army Chief of Staff, he had an office larger than the house in which he had lived with his parents and 4 brothers. Uncomfortable with ostentatious luxury, during the war he disapproved of his lavish suite at London's Claridge's Hotel, with its gold and black sitting room, and moved out. "Makes me feel like I'm living in sin," he said. But he wore custom-made suits, donated by New York clothiers, and cheerfully loud golf clothes. "He never seemed to wear the same thing twice," recalled Arthur Larson. His clothes were carefully laid out every morning by Money. Dressing the president was a precise half-hour ritual. It was like seeing somebody get ready for battle in the movies, said his grandson David, who as a boy watched with wonder. He holds his hands out and puts his armor on, right plate armor, left plate armor. George Thompson, who filled in for Money on his days off, was astounded to find that he had to hold the president's undershorts for him to step into. Eisenhower was at once intimate and courtly with his staff. He rose when his secretary entered the room, and for the first 2 years addressed her as Mrs. Whitman. A tall, handsome woman in her early 40s, Ann Whitman could instantly sense the president's mood. Staffers would check with her in the morning for updates. As she revealed to her biographer Bob Donovan, she knew the president's likes and dislikes, that he enjoyed classical as well as cowboy music, though he was deathly afraid of being considered highbrow, that he pretended not to like big crowds along his motorcade route, that he liked seeing old Abilene friends and classmates.